trying to straight to myself. Like, I thought to myself, I was like, that's not possible. Like, how can someone like two things at the same time? I was even trying to explain it to my mother the other day, because she confronted me at the train station. She's like, well, someone told me that you like both men and women. And I was like, yeah. She's like, don't you think that's kind of weird? And I was just like, Mom, not really. Do you like chocolate? She's like, yes. Do you like, let's say, gum? Yes. Do you like them both at the same time? No? Two different candies, but they do the same thing? They put something sweet in your mouth? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, okay. And then she goes, well, what about that ex-boyfriend that you had? You didn't know? I was like, he knew. He wanted a threesome and it didn't work out. She goes, but what's the problem? You like both of them, so why would you do it? And I was like, Mom, would you sleep with two guys at the same time? She goes, no. I'm like, so why would I sleep with two people at the same time? There's this idea of what bisexual people look like, and it's kind of hard being in between as a person of color and a bisexual, where we don't fit into this negative narrative, and to come out of it, it's really hard to break.
You just named like so many terrible tropes that us bisexuals have to face, and fortunately we have Jess here who actually has data from LGBT fans to serve better about some of these tropes. So what are some of the tropes that you found in the research?
I'm gonna try to do this.
We'll try to get through it.
All right, yes, no, I just came from the other panel, so if I can still talk. We have done work. One of the first projects that we wanted to do with our group, we concentrate on TV, we concentrate on scripted TV, and one of our first projects then was, we realized how little information there was about bisexual female characters and like specific problems with representation that hit that group, because I think one of the first distinctions we made is male bisexual characters and female and they'll just get so very negative portrayals around that. And I will whip through there's more, but I will whip through these very fast. Unstable bisexual, and that's one that we really had to go into when we talked about storylines that are really tying bisexuality very closely to mental illness, to erratic behavior, to overly negative behavior too, and not all of that is even through like drug addiction and everything like that, but mental illness, drug addiction, just downward spiral in general, being very closely tied, even more so than with lesbian characters into bisexual characters. And then finally, barrier gaze also hits bisexual characters, and it hits them more often when they're with female partners. But it also, I think, one of the things that ties it to larger LGBT rep is that the bisexual character is often paired with a lesbian character who is killed off, and then the bisexual character is left behind and sort of turned into this tortured character as well, either not allowed to grieve, going crazy in their grief, and then, the whole point of the barrier gaze, I think when you tie it way back to the Hays Code, is saying it's punishment for this same-sex behavior, and it's punishment for having a relationship like that, but it can be redeemed through a heterosexual relationship later. And so this is the story arc that carries forward a lot, and it does really affect bisexual characters negatively because it says that only a heterosexual type relationship is valid. There's so much invalidation that happens around the same-sex relationships for bisexual characters that, I almost think that that's kind of something that you think, well, if you're bisexual, real love is one thing with one gender, with another, because that is the pervasive narrative. Okay, I talked for a long time. I'll stop right now.
I think something that really stood out to me was that we are even at a point where we are debating, we see news headlines. I remember a particular New York Times headline from a couple of years ago that was like, does bisexuality exist? And I was like, we have so much work to do if we have to start from the premise that we even exist. But Chelsea, I would love to hear from you in terms of if there were any tropes that really jumped out at you, and if there are any parallels with certain characters that either worked for you or you just thought were really troubling.
I mean, I think, first of all, if I see one more article that's like, are bisexuals real? I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. It's like, no, we're leprechauns. We live at the end of the world. Like, pull your head out of your asses. I do think, for me, it really depends on the quality of the writing of the show. Like, a bisexual character can be crazy and erratic and maybe an anti-hero and make poor choices, but if it's well written, but it can't be because they're bisexual. It has to be because of other reasons. Like my favorite bisexual character, who I realize I'm just gonna get a lot of groans, but it's Piper Chapman on Orange is the New Black. I fucking love that character, and she's a terrible person. She's an independent, she's a terrible person, but like because she's a self-centered, privileged white girl, it made sense to me because they give what I thought the writing was. They explain who she is, why she is the way she is. They give equal weight to her relationships with Larry, to her relationships with Alex, and it creates a whole picture. Because for me, I want to see flawed female, three-dimensional characters. I feel like every man on a show is always an anti-hero and is always an asshole. Like Breaking Bad, he's a terrible person. Ray Donovan, he's a terrible person. Young Pope, he's a dick. So why can't female characters be afforded the same nuance and the same complications? I want to see dirty, messy characters that behave badly.
You know what's so fascinating about Orange is the New Black and Piper, because I love Piper. I think she's, until this last season, not so much. But if you look at even the first few episodes up until now, so you used to be a lesbian, but you're not a lesbian anymore. No, I'm not a lesbian anymore. I don't think she's ever said the word bisexual.
Yes.
I don't think anybody has said the word bisexual about her. She's in a relationship with Alex, so she's a lesbian. She's in a relationship with Larry, so she's stupid and straight. That word is not acknowledged. It is this. I have a group of friends who are bisexual writers as well, and we call ourselves unicorns because we just don't exist to anybody except for ourselves. That's it. That's everybody else just doesn't see us.
I do think that joke that bisexual women are unicorns, and it's the only, like, bisexual women already ignored, already invisible. I think another level of that is bisexual women who are married to or in a committed relationship with cishet men. It's this idea that suddenly that identity is like, oh, you're with a man now, you're no longer bisexual, and that's not how that works.
You know what's amazing about that? I have an incredible group of lesbian friends, the ones back here yelling. My sister is a lesbian. She joked the other day when somebody tried to, like, preach at her the street. She was like, I'm professionally gay. Like, I get paid to be lesbian. And I was literally on the plane over here riding with two very lovely women, both of whom were lesbians, and I had this moment of striking panic. I'm not queer enough to do this. I'm not queer enough to go here and, like, what if I say, oh, my husband, and people are like, what the fuck is wrong with me? In this space with all these queer women, it's here in the most welcoming place, the most encouraging place, and I really did have this moment of panic of, oh no, I can't go there. I can't be in this place.
Raise your hand if you've ever felt not queer enough. So many hands, look at that. I'm the same way. I'm also married to a man who is selling merch in the lobby. It's fine, he's basically a lesbian, it's cool. There's a sense of like, oh, once you've coupled up, and statistically, a large number of bisexual women will end up with a cishet man. That's just the numbers of it. There's more available cishet men who will date us than there are bisexual women or queer women or anything else. It's the numbers of it. So we're kind of saddled with this. I do want to start something new because we are. Can I get that for you? I do want to say because if bisexual people are unicorns, then bisexual women in a relationship with men, I think we're narwhals. We're unicorns, but we're like in the sea. You can't see us, and you're like, is that a barnacle? Is that a mermaid? No, it's a narwhal.
What's actually so interesting about talking about bisexual women being in relationships with cishet men, I can't tell you how many bisexual women I know who are married to men and didn't realize or comprehend their bisexuality until after they were married, which is what happened to me. Like I said, my sister is gay, and for a long time I felt like that was the way to be gay and anything else wasn't gay enough. And and she's the one who eventually said to me, Jen, like, you should maybe think about, like, just flat out said, it was like Bisexual Awareness Week coming up, and she was like, you should really think about just like flat out saying you're bisexual. I never said it to anyone, I hadn't said it to her, I had never acknowledged it, and she just literally put it on the table, acknowledged this thing. And I was like, yeah, okay, I should probably do that. But I had relationships with girls in college, the whole thing, and I just think there are a lot of women, bisexual women, who don't feel there's a space for them because they didn't come to it until after.
And it's ironic you said that because the way most of us start going with you finally figure yourself out and thinking, okay, I'm finally bisexual, but you don't feel queer enough. Like if you go into a lesbian space, you're just gonna be like, well, you're not really a lesbian, so we can't fuck with you. And then you go to the other side, and that's a bunch of men, and they're like, oh yeah, let's get a threesome.
Do you want a threesome?
And it's like, hello, human here, I have feelings. That also aids in the fact of, bisexual invisibility. Like, we're thinking we're not queer enough, we're not good enough, so therefore we're not going to put ourselves out there. So I feel like
it's safer.
Yes, it's safer. But at the same time, as a community, and as a person who identifies as bisexual, I face most of my, I would say, prejudice coming from the LGBTQ community because they're like, well, you're just confused. Like, you have to figure yourself out. It's either you're straight or you're gay. You can't be in between. And I face that a lot amongst lesbians, mostly white lesbians, or amongst black men. It's just weird.
And that experience, there's actually data about that, right? That bisexual women face greater mental health issues and health disparities because we were both rejected by the queer community and then also by straight people who are afraid to come out. How do some of these media representations actually teach people that that is an okay behavior? How do some of these media representations actually lead to the way that we experience our lives as bisexuals?
Well, I do think that bisexuality is kind of the last thing under the queer umbrella you can make fun of, and it's okay. Like somehow, like we're all really cool with like making bisexual jokes, and like I make bisexual jokes all the time because I can, because I am one. But it seems weeks ago on the Real O'Neills, they made a bisexual joke, and Callie Torres, who's Sarah Ramirez, I was like, what's Callie Torres' real name? She publicly tweeted and was like, hey, ABC, that's not cool. Like, you know, and it's somehow it's this weird group, and it's weird because there's more of us than there are of any other members under the umbrella, but yet it's still cool to like bag on bisexuals. And so they do it because they can. Because you can't make fun of gay people anymore. You can't make fun of lesbians anymore. Like we've, as collectively said, you know what, this shit doesn't fly anymore. And I think that bisexuals have to do the same.
Because the minute you asked that question, I thought of Annalise from How to Get Married. That's my hub. Like, because for some, she represents me in a sense because I am kind of like that strong, stubborn, don't tell me anything, you're what you thought don't matter, is what I say goes. Like, that's me. Like, Annalise is me 30 years from now. And although I may not see myself like, okay, I'm going to end up marrying to a guy and have all this drama happen, it's great that TV showed someone who is bi, who is of color, and even though she's messy as fuck,
Well, it wasn't messy because she's bisexual.
she's not messy because she's bisexual.
She's
She's just messy because she's just crazy. And that's okay. All this messy stuff happening around her that has nothing to do with her sexuality, that's why I like her character. That's why I'm prone to watching the show, not because I care about who killed Wes, because I don't care. He should die the first episode.
Yes.
But I watch it.
all caught up on the show.
That was like the collection of Harry Potter fans who were like,
Shocking revelations at ClexaCon. We just made it for the Q&A afterwards. Bisexuals hate Harry Potter, what? Not. I do want to say though, in all honesty, thank goddess for Shonda Rhimes. Has there been anyone more committed to showing queer, bisexual people, showing trans people, showing people of color, showing people of different body types? Like this woman is single-handedly changing the television that we watch. Like, I think it's unbelievable.
In mentioning Shonda Rhimes, that kind of pivots our conversation into where we're seeing good representations and what the appetite is like for certain bi characters. So, Jen, why don't we start with you? Who is doing it right, if there's anyone you can think of, and what would you like to see, I guess, in the next year in terms of?
Sure. Well, definitely Shonda Rhimes is just killing it. I think from the beginning of Callie Torres' arc, she was fantastic. And again, she's very messy, but she's messy because she's crazy. She's not messy because she's queer. I unfortunately do not watch as much television as I should, as some people do. There is this revolution within the young adult community of bisexual books. A bisexual book came out this year called A Fire in Stars. It was amazing. It was one of Goodreads' most anticipated books of the year. And it was this fantastic, you have this kind of fairy tale, like the princess meets the prince and they fall in love. But this was the princess meets the prince and then she falls in love with his sister. And that's doing it right. That's taking this trope and flipping it on its head. And I think as we move forward, I want to see more messy bisexual characters. I don't want to see, these kind of virginized or really sterilized characters. Like, let them be messy. Let them be chaotic. But let them be chaotic because of things that have happened to them or just because they're chaotic people. Let's move past this idea. I think it's sort of the same thing as 50 Shades of Grey, right? It's this fucked up relationship because this guy has all of this abuse or whatever. Like, get your kink on, you do you, I'm about it. But it's not a punishment or retribution. So let all of that stuff come organically. I feel like as we move forward, let's have more of that. Let's push for that representation. I'm not asking for it to be perfect people without flaws. Those aren't relatable. I relate so much more to Annalise. She's crazy. And I see that messy, chaotic messiness in myself. And let's have more of that. Let's be messy.
I want to see more bisexual characters where it's just like they're And it's like she's bisexual and she's a scientist and she's someone dealing with chronic illness. Like there's so much more to her. And I also, characters like Alana on Broad City, that's someone who is casually kind of in love with her best friend, casually in love with, and it's never a thing. It's never like, oh, it's the bisexual episode where we address this. It's just who she fucking is. So I think more representation like that is what we want.
I think I'd love to see more intersectionality when it comes down to bisexuality, like show trans people who are bisexual as well. Because I do know a few, and just this week, seeing all my sisters dying just for the sake of existing, it actually hurt me a little bit because it's like, why are we killing them? Why are we hurting them? They're doing absolutely nothing. What we should be focusing on is making sure they have representation in media, they have representation, period. And I would love to see more trans people who are shown as bisexual.
Yes.
That's what I would like to see.
Being able to see yourself literally can save your life and also save other people's lives. Just before we go to the Q&A, you did a survey of who's getting it right. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that, and then we will go to our audience.
Okay. Our survey was super unscientific, and it was like whoever answered our tweet and whoever could now run us. So some of these people have been mentioned already. Our supporters, and we too, like when we say like our organization support positive LGBT growth, it's not that we want all happy stories all the time. We just want complicated stories. We want ones that don't hit every single trope on the way down, and so bringing these out. What are the ones that our supporters, who are very, very critical viewers, who do they think is getting it right? Callie, I think, was saying Waverly Earp. And I think that's going to be really interesting to see what they do with that storyline and that relationship moving forward, because I think they had this happen in the spring of everyone dead. They were the ones left standing. They were the ones left wearing a bulletproof vest, and just perfect timing. So that'd be really interesting to see how they explore that relationship moving forward. Our group, and we must have just hit like one age range on one afternoon. Alex Kelly from the OC came up as like influential. It was 4 episodes. It was messy, and it came out and said that like we couldn't show this, and we had to like do this, but they said, I don't care. That one changed my life. So we're going to do that one. And we're also going to say it might be because it's Olivia Wilde, because 13 and 13, I think there were mixed reviews on that one, because they said, on the one hand, this was a character that was very messy, and at the same time, they showed her bisexuality occasionally in a negative light, sort of as a downward spiral, and yet ended up her story arc with the girlfriend, and that was considered like a healthy thing for her to do, to leave the hospital or whatever. Spoilers, sorry, from however many years ago that was. Delphine, I think, came up. I'm not sure that we considered Cosima a bisexual character. Or is she?
So they never say it in the show,
Right.
but the creators of the guys who created Orphan Black say Cosima's bisexual, but they never mention it.
Okay. Well, and I think they never mentioned this. We had a good conversation about how much we love San Junipero for exactly, and how it almost like all the criticisms that we were having for all these other shows, that they didn't say it out loud. They didn't take these all kinds of relationships seriously. They didn't show desire for a different kind of relationship when they were in a monogamous marriage relationship. It was really, really, really groundbreaking stuff. So that one, we went on about it for a while. But also one that came up in that, and I just finished watching this Christmas special too. But Amanita from Sense8, I think we found has not yet hit any tropes at all on our list. So we highly recommend that one so far. So that I think is my one.
I'd also just like to give a shout out. Is anyone watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend?
Yes.
It's an amazing show, but they have a character on the first season, Kim, as a bisexual man, which you never see. And it's like really well done and well nuanced. And there's another person in the office that's a bisexual woman. And I feel like that's a show that's just like killing it with regards to, with regards to
open this up to your Q&A. I wonder if we can pass around a microphone, or you can come up and actually ask your question if y'all are comfortable to do that.
So I'm bisexual and I've been with my wife for 10 years. And
Try this one.
I'm actually also at the entail of medical school, and my first 2 years I did research on the LGBT community and their access to health, and a lot of what you touch on. I found the problem, and I'm wondering what you guys think in terms of solution, because it's very hard to get this many people in a room, to be honest. We have 4,000 people on the campus, and I was looking to survey people, and I was sitting there going, it's probably like 1%. That's like 40 people. So I'm wondering what you guys think can be done to provide better access, better communication, whatnot. So we might even talk to ask male, female, or both, for sexual partners, but what more than that can we do?
well, again, I think so much of it is representation. Because I feel like, for me especially, I never took the word bisexual for myself until I saw it represented on television. And said, oh, I look like that. Oh, I read it, and it was me, and I wept for a straight hour. And she said to me the other day, she said, I'm about to write a book that's a bisexual triangle, and I'm just going to do it. And I think that's the thing. So we talk about Sex in the City. Samantha's a slut just because she was a slut. Like, do it, girl, get yours. Just be a slut, that's fine. She wasn't a slut because she was straight. So if you're a bisexual slut, do it, own it. That's so fine with me. And if people are going to hate on you, like, just let them do it. You just have to own it. You just have to be in it. And you're not responsible for what people think. You just have to do you.
I mean, as someone who works in the adult industry, female sexuality is something that's been so, crushed and pushed down, but at the same time, mortified and objectified. It's an unwinnable
was enough.